All right, so yes, that is it. Today we have the man Murtala Inusah, the Arsenal fan, the solid man who has issues with people here today. Murtala, good morning.
GHOne,
yes, you are my very good
with
friend.
the saucy voice.
You are my very good friend today.
I know. I know. But what man do man?
What man do man, Murtala?
GHOne, what man do man?
You see, Prince Asian, Emmanuel Ejaben, those two guys, you need to call them to order.
We should be very careful with them.
Yeah, we should be very careful of those two boys. Yeah.
It's not easy.
But you and me, we are brothers. Oh my goodness. How was your weekend?
The weekend was very cool, very relaxed. In fact, the rains have also started. So
oh yes.
It's adding up to things. The weather has become very calm of late and all of that. So it contributed to a very quiet and calm weekend. But in all they say, it was a weekend that those of us from North London were disappointed because those from the Merseyside decided to put draws to the EPL. So now the debate about who is winning the EPL is gone. The Liverpool are in fact, they are default champions because of the injuries and the bias officiating.
It's okay.
To us now.
I know.
I know
It's on your heart. I know it's on your heart. But we'll deal with that in court. So tell us what is happening in the world.
Yes. So in fact, a lot is happening within the judicial service and judiciary. Ever since we had the information or the news that the Lady Chief Justice has been suspended. In fact, a lot is happening administratively. We have the acting Chief Justice in place in the person of Justice Paul Bafuboni. And in fact, there's a statement that I want to show you. This was a memo that came out on the April 23, which directed that all cases that have been filed in application that have been should be brought to the attention of the acting Chief Justice for assignment to courts and paneling of judges and all of that. So that came out, and when the statement came out, what we did observe was to the effect that it was not signed by the Judicial Secretary that we are used to, but this time around it was signed by the acting judicial or Deputy Judicial Secretary in the person of Syracuse Bapuro. Then people were asking the question about what is happening. Why is the deputy the one signing a memo to be given to the court registrate and all of that? Then fast forward, let's look at the next. Here you are. There is a confirmation as to why we didn't have the Judicial Secretary sign that particular memo. The acting Chief Justice is informing us that the Judicial Secretary, Justice Pamela Granting-Addo, in fact, currently a Justice of the Court of Appeal, has stepped down as the Judicial Secretary. And in the interim, we have the Deputy acting as the Judicial Secretary now. But let me go through this particular, so on your screens now, as Justice Pamela Granting, the former Judicial Secretary. And then the new one that is acting now on the right side of your screen, Mr. Bapuro. But let me go through the memo that came informing us about the fact that the Judicial Secretary has stepped down. The acting Chief Justice is saying that, look, at the 291st meeting of the Judicial Council held on Wednesday, 26th March 2025, the Council accepted the request by Her Ladyship, Sarah Pamela Granting, to be released from the duties of Judicial Secretary. Wherefore, you are hereby directed to assume duties of Judicial Secretary pending decision by the Judicial Council, and the Judicial Council is the highest decision-taking body of the judiciary, and the eventual appointment of a substantive Judicial Secretary. Members of the judiciary, the Judicial Service of Ghana, and the general public are to take notes accordingly. And this one was signed by His Lordship Justice Paul Bafuboni, the acting Chief Justice. So, if you remember, in a few weeks back, I was telling you that you should expect a lot of changes administratively within the judicial service. And this is one of the things that was cooking at the time, that the Judicial Secretary Justice Pamela Corantin has stepped down. She has resigned from her role. It doesn't mean that she's out of the judiciary.
Yes, but from her role as judicial secretary.
That's an administrative role. In fact, within many institutions, if you are the secretary, if you are the administrative, virtually everything that comes up, you are the one in charge of it. But now she's focusing more on her job as a judge, and she is a justice of the Court of Appeal and all of that.
Right.
But in relation to the memo that came out about the acting chief justice asking that new cases, new applications should be referred to his office. The Ghana Bar Association has been raising concerns about, in fact, they had the mid-year conference.
Right.
And they discussed, in fact, the members were informed about the brains behind that particular memo. But the GBA is saying that at the right time, when at this particular point in time, what the acting chief justice has told them was to the effect that they note, or he realized that the cases are not being distributed equally. One court, 100 cases, you go to another court, 5 cases, you go to another court, 10 cases. And so it put burden on some of the courts.
Right.
So this particular memo is to ensure that when the cases come, they will assess it and look at the courts that do not have enough on their hands, and then the cases are signed. So on your screens are what took place within the bar conference and all of that. But one interesting thing happened. You note that the GBA has been telling us about their position on the issue about the Chief Justice.
And interestingly, when they started, it was more like, oh, let's all exercise some calm and restraint, let the law take its course. But now they're seeing a position.
I'll tell you in a bit. But first, let's hear from the president of the Ghana Bar Association, Mrs. Efua on a caution to lawyers.
Having been informed as a country that petitions against the Chief Justice have been filed, you are repeatedly asked, at what point in time does the country get to know the contents of the petitions? What if the petitions are frivolous, but steps have been taken which may impugn the reputation of the person against whom the petitions have been filed? Assuming that there is a hearing, how long should the hearing be? Can the Chief Justice elect to have the proceedings heard in public instead of in camera? And many more such questions. This process is a novel one in our history as a country, and we, the bar, must continue to monitor the situation and not hesitate to express our opinion on it where the circumstances demand. It is important that in such matters, justice is not only done, but manifestly be seen to have been done.
So, the word that she mentioned, manifestly seen to have been done. But the GBA at this particular media conference discussed matters affecting the legal profession. They discussed matters affecting the judiciary, including the current situation. They also discussed matters in relation to the nation, and some resolutions that they came out in the Kumasi conference, and the resolution that they will be taken at this particular forum. Yeah. But before the conversation even started, the GBA said that it is time that it starts leading the proposal for guidelines that will ensure that when an Article 71 office holder is being removed, is being impeached, for instance, in the situation, the example that we have, a judge, the guidelines that should go with it. Let's hear from Mrs. Efua again.
Indeed, it is for this reason that in the wisdom of the Supreme Court, in the 2020 judgment of the Republic versus the Chief Justice and the Attorney General, reference number 36/027019, the court led by Doche GSC, in the epilogue of the judgment, called for the formulation of rules of procedure for the impeachment of Article 71 office holders in the conduct of proceedings under Article 146 of the 1992 Constitution. The judgment concluded, and I quote, "Judges be accorded a fair measure of justice, fairness, and equity in all deliberations that affect them." It is about time that these guidelines were produced in order to eliminate arbitrariness in such proceedings, which ought to be held expeditiously and possibly in open court, given the necessary publicity such matters attract. The bar must take the lead and make proposals in this regard.
The bar must take the lead
Very instructive.
and make proposals. So one of the things that she talked about was to the effect that, you know, the Chief Justice's impeachment process will have to be held in camera. She's looking at, can we have it done in open, on television, so that everybody will look at it? It's one of the things that they look at. Then, moments after, in fact, that program has two sessions. The opening part, which was a panel discussion, has a lot of it, was open to the media and all of that. Then the second section that talk about the sensitivity of the issues within the areas that we are talking about.
Exactly.
Also took place. I know they spoke about washroom and how some of the courts are looking that bad, especially the law court complex in Cape Coast, and the plans that have been put in place to make sure that they have a befitting one. There was also an issue about the Chief Justice situation as at now, and that is where the conversation got very interesting. Even the issue about the memo for the calling of new cases that also came to the fore. The moment later, we're hearing that the GBA is saying that they have passed a resolution that the president revoked the suspension of the Chief Justice. And we're like, ooh, has the GBA departed from its position? Because all that we kept hearing from the day before the statement came and this very conference, even the president of the bar, the opening statement was clear, setting the tone for the conversation. So it came to light that, yes, they discussed the issue about the president revoking the suspension of the Chief Justice. They spoke about issues of galamsey and how it is affecting the nation and the position that the Ghana Bar Association must take. As we speak, we are waiting for that statement from the Ghana Bar Association telling the whole country that, yes, indeed, our resolution is that we want President John Dramani Mahama to revoke the suspension. As we speak, there's no official communication on that. So what we are hearing, everything that we are hearing, is from one official source. We've seen some videos about the president of the Ghana Bar Association make that particular, in fact, which suggests to make the point that, yes, a decision has been taken. But that one was the section that was not open to the general public, and all of that. So the GBA is saying that when you see that particular decision on the official letterhead of the Ghana Bar Association, signed by the president, Mrs. Efuagati, and the general secretary, Kweku Bafo, they believe that that is the statement or that is the position of the Ghana Bar Association.
Until then, we cannot assume that whatever we are hearing is from unofficial
source. But they also do not deny the fact that that conversation has been had. So that is the situation. It's getting very, very interesting day in and day out and all of that. So in the coming days or hours, we'll be looking up to the Ghana Bar Association to come up with that resolution, which points to the fact that they are urging the president to revoke the suspension of the Lady Chief Justice because of some petitions that has been filed, and then prima facie has been determined for the issues to be interrogated further.
Interesting.
And in fact, in all of that, the former Deputy Attorney General, Dinah Asonabadapa, was also at that forum, and let's hear when we engage. Hey.
On whatever side you find yourself, what has really come to the fore for me is the gaps in Article 146 particularly, and perhaps all other constitutions regulating the removal or the security of tenure of some public officers. And for me, I think that is where intelligently the conversation should start from. But until then, what does the Constitution say? And we should all be very open and very accommodating of conversations around revisiting what our Constitution and our laws is about. And as academic, I know that better. It's a continual responsibility as Ghanaians, and particularly as the Ghana Bar Association. But until then, having that conversation is a different thing, but it's also not to suggest that they are mutually exclusive. But until then, what does our Constitution says, what our law says? Do we do an introspection and do we advance arguments for amendments? The two should not be mixed, but the two also are not mutually exclusive.
Yes, so that is Diana Asona Dapa, the former Deputy Attorney General, also adding her view. In fact, there were some interesting discussions about things that are happening within the judiciary. In fact, in our subsequent edition, we'll bring you the panel discussions, the individuals who were there, the legal brains who were there, some of the things that they said, and how the judiciary can be trusted, and things that the bar should do to also support the judiciary in order to improve in that sense. So these are some of the things that took place in the course of the week. And this week we look out for very interesting sittings in the court. The issue about the Akwetia MP will come up this week at the Supreme Court. The decision will be taken in relation to the certiorari and all of that. There's also an issue regarding the all-time leading goal scorer of the Black Stars. Who is that?
That should be a Samajan.
Yes.
Of course. I think I know a bit of my sports. I know a bit of my sports. So we'll bring you more
of that. So keep watching
sports.
And keep monitoring. But this morning, this is what I have for you. By
Charlie Murtala, thank you so much. And don't worry, your lunch is on me. That's Murtala Inusah. That's to just appease him.